How's it going, Patreon patrons? So as you can see right here, I've got the Patreon face. So anyway, this video is about Invention Mastery, Investing Mastery. Yeah, Invention Mastery. Coming in 2018. No, Investing Mastery. So over the weekend, I gave you guys a gigantic list of things to buy. So this video is basically going to be explaining to you a little bit more in depth as to when to sell them and what to look out for, and things along that line. So what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to show you an example. So our first example here is going to be Super Magic 3 Dose. So this is one of the things that was on the list, I believe. And this is a great example of something that you would be handling as far as when you want to sell it or whatever. This is just, it's one of the things, many things that we'd be investing in during the weekend. So first thing I want to say is that the best way to find out when you should be selling one of these things is going to be by looking at graphs. So if you go to the wiki, the Runescape wiki, or you go to grandexchangecentral.com, both of those are great places to look. You can also look on the Runescape website at the Grand Exchange graphs. The only thing is not anywhere near as good as the other two places. What you're going to look at is stuff like this. So let's say, for example, now I'm going to use totally made up prices. Obviously, we could probably look up and find the price of Super Magic, but I'm going to use completely made up prices. So do not use the prices that I am showing you in here exactly. So let's say on the weekend you bought them for $3,000. So we'll say our item A here is for $3,000. Keep in mind, by the way, that when you look at the graphs that you really pay attention to this, because especially on the wiki, it's very easy to look up the graph for like Super Magic 4 dose or something like that. So make sure you're actually looking at the dose that you have. Something else to keep in mind though, if you did invest in potions, is that you should also pay attention to the 4 dose and the 6 dose flask. So these are like additional things that you want to keep in mind as you're looking through. Don't really pay attention to 1 dose or 2 dose because the volume on those and the GE is so low that it is irrelevant. You would have an insanely hard time selling them all off. And yeah, it's just not really something you need to pay attention to. You also really can't buy that many of them at that dose. So really the only thing you need to pay attention to as far as potions is going to be the 3, the 4, and the 6. And also keep in mind that for the 6 here, and I'll get a little bit more into this later, but that also includes a flask. And we're talking about the potion flask, not the crystal flask. So that number will also include a flask in the pricing. So anyway, let's get more into it now. I'll come back around to that stuff, and I really don't want to get too far ahead here. So we'll go ahead and create a graph. So previous to Double Experience Weekend, stuff is usually going up and up and up, and then Super Magics are used for extreme potions, which goes into overloads and things like that. So they usually do go spike way up there and hit like a peak price, and then during the weekend they just start to tank. And then they might go like this a little bit, and then they just go down. So right now, in our current session, since we're after Double Experience Weekend, we'll just say that Double XP is right about here on the graph. And this is where Double XP ends. So we got the peak time right there, which most items follow that. You'll also notice that some items don't dip down like this. And this is just an example here. Some of your other items are going to go like this, where they might be like, oh, they start rising, Double XP day starts, and they just keep going up and up and up. Some stuff does that, and not very many items do that, but a great example of that would actually be like seeds. Like for example, go try to buy a magic seed in the GE right now. You'll find out that it doesn't buy anywhere near mid. It buys way over mid. So that's an example of that. It will not dip like that. But this Super Magic, for example, does dip like that. So right here is we've got the end of Double XP, and this is also currently where we are at. We're at right there. So right there is currently what we're doing on our graph. So before Double XP started, it's going up like this, hits that peak time, Double XP begins, it's all crazy through here, and then now it's like dropping. What's going to happen soon though, it's going to hit the low. So we've got, I'm going to use a different color marker for this. And sorry about the crazy camera. I wish I had a cameraman. I just don't get paid enough. Okay, so we've got our high, and now we've got our low. So we've got our high, we've got our low. What we're looking for as a time to sell our item is going to be when it comes back up and then levels out. Now the thing is, you're not going to find a graph that looks exactly like this. And the reason why is because you'll find all this part, but then right here, you're going to see a bunch of like, you know, it's not going to be, I don't know why I even did that. It's not going to be flat. I guess the reason why I did that is because the rest of the graph is irrelevant. It's going to be like, and it's going to go like that until the next event of some kind happens. So what we're going to be looking for on our graph here is this. So the blue represents what we are targeting. So let me come back here a little bit so you can see this. So we've got, I should probably get, okay. We've got our graph here, double experience build up. So everybody's stocking the items, and this prices are rising because double XP. Double XP begins, and that's our peak high price. Then they come down because double XP is going crazy through here. It ends, which is where we're at. You know, we're at the day or two after. It comes down here and hits a low, and then comes up here. Now keep in mind though, this is a grand exchange graph. So the prices that an item actually buys or sells for can be and will be completely different than when you see the numbers on the graph. So the low right here might be matching, you know, it could actually be higher than what these might have been here, because the grand exchange might have shown something like 5,000, but then if you were to like instantly sell one and get a real price, maybe it was 2,000. And then maybe our low is, as far as the grand exchange is concerned, and what it shows is 2,500. But then this right here is probably a more realistic number. This right here is what it was, because something you have to keep in mind is the grand exchange is not always accurate. Items are often not what the grand exchange shows. For example, a party hat is not in the grand exchange. Obviously, they're not 21.47 million. They're far more. So the reason why we're waiting till this over here is because let's say this number right here, let's say for example that number is 4,500. Okay, so we got 4,500 right here. Remember that we paid 3,000 somewhere in here. So we paid 3,000 for this item somewhere in here. So to not get you super confused, and if you've been following along the video, you're probably not confused, but just stay with me here. 3,000 is what we paid somewhere in this time period. We're going to be aiming for this number over here. Now keep in mind, like I said, these are all fake numbers. So what you're going to be looking for though is the highs, and then it hits a low, and then goes back up to an average. It just stays the same price forever and ever and ever and ever until like another big event happens. That price is what you want to be selling it for. So if it's 4,500 and then 4,500 and then 4,500, you know, that shows you where the price should be. You know, that's the price we're going to be targeting. So that's what we're really going to be looking for, is going to be where it averages back out. You might have another graph. Let me give you like one more example here. One moment. Say you're looking at the graph and you see something like this. Like it's like this, it's like this, it's like this, and then it drops for some reason, like double experience ends. Like say it was like super stable, and like, cause some items are like this, like an elder bow, for example. If you're to buy like an elder bow, they don't just skyrocket up and down very much. They're pretty much the same price forever. Until double experience goes, they drop, and then they go back up and they go back to being continuing. So for an elder bow, for example, you would have bought it here, and then you're going to be aiming for that average. You can also look back at what they were before double XP. You know, because we obviously don't know the future. We don't know the future. So if you're asking, how do I know when the dip has ended and it's back up to where we're targeting without waiting too long, then you can look in the beginning and see what it was. If this was 5,000, and then this over here, you bought them for 3,000. Now if we look back, we see 5, right? Then that means the future, we're aiming for something around 5,000. That looks like a 6. So you're looking for something in the 5,000 future. So you want to find something close to that. So look in the past and be able to find that number. So I hope that clears up. I'm sure somebody had the question of how do I know when it's actually hit that average again? Well, you look at where it was before. Most items are going to return to where they were before, and the reason why is because the people who are going to dump these items, we are not the only ones investing right now. Remember that. So and also the people are going to buy them, and if people are used to paying 10,000 for something, they're probably not going to pay 11,000 for it. You know, unless there's like a game change, or maybe there's like a really high demand for it, it's going to pretty much go back to what they were expecting to pay for it again. You know, if you think about rune bars have been like 13.8K each for like an eternity, 13.5K each forever. The reason why is because people get used to paying that. Okay, so one last thing I want to show you guys here is an example of potions. So we know now what we're going to be looking for in the graphs. So I'm going to show you guys something cool about potions, and this also applies to other items as well. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the first example of being potions. So for example, let's say Super Magic 3, our targeted sell price is going to be, no, remember we're making up numbers here. So 6,000. So let's say we're looking for 6,000. And then that number pops up and we're like, oh, it's 6,000, perfect, it's time to sell it. Well, don't sell your potions right away for this number. The reason why is because remember what I said in the beginning, potions also are very relevant in the 4s and the 6s. So what you can do is you can also check the 4 dose. What if the 4 dose is 8,100? 8.1K. 8.1K, so this is 2,000 per dose. This is more than 2,000 per dose. Let's say the 6 dose pot is like 25K. So that flask is 25,000. If we take out the cost of the flask, which is probably 5,000, that's how much they normally are, then we have 20,000 for just the 6 doses. That is once again higher than this and this. So we will be selling for this. So before you sell off your potions, make sure that you check all the other potions, and make sure you also look at the other potions graphs too, because you can always decant your potions into other potions, and that way you make the most money possible. This also applies to something like, say you have like an unstrung bow versus a strung bow. If you find out that by adding bowstring, so you add bowstring to the unstrung bow, say this one's 1,000, obviously made up numbers here, remember that. Say this is 1,000, but the strung one is 2,000, and bowstring is only 300. Then you can make 1,700 each by making the bows. Now you think about it, is that worth your time? It probably is. Maybe it is. It really depends on who you are. But you should always think about what you're investing, what your investments could become. So keep in mind that the item you're selling may not be the item you're selling. If that makes any sense. I mean, that might sound really stupid, but keep in mind that, just remember that, think about the other variations of your item. And you know, this also, besides Double Experience Weekend, this also applies to pretty much all investing. Always think about what everything is. Say you have a yak pouch. If you have a yak pouch, so you got yak pouch here, and the yak pouch is $41.50, which is a common yak pouch price. Now say for some reason when you're about to sell these, you also think, wait a minute, Manatee Gaming told me that I should look at the other variations of my item. Yak pouches, when you use them on a summoning stone, like an obelisk, they turn into a winter scroll. They turn into the winter scroll. So if you have a winter scroll, and the winter scroll is going for 500, which it's probably not, but hey, remember, made up numbers. Then this, remember that during Amlod hour, you make 12 scrolls. Outside of Amlod hour, you make 10. So that'll either turn into 5,000 or it'll turn into 6,000. Both of these numbers look like they are bigger than 41.50, right? So you can think to yourself, hey, would it actually make more money if I was to turn these into scrolls? And by the way, turning things into scrolls is pretty quick. So that might be worth it. I've actually found money-making methods where turning things into scrolls is worth a ton of money. Last thing I want to show you guys here, and then if you have any more questions beyond what I'm going to show you on here, then you can just message me on Patreon, please. But anyway, I'm going to show you the last thing here, and that is, say for example, we have hit our price. Say 5,000 was our price we were waiting for, right? So we were like, man, we're finally hitting that price. Finally hitting that price. I'm just going to dump them in there right now for 4,999. And then when I do that, what happens if they instantly sell? What does that tell you? I can imagine a couple people in the video right now are like, oh, I know what that means, but I can't hear you. So I'm going to tell you what it means. What that means, you sold them too low. So how can you fix that? You can start by not immediately, when your number hits that price, like when your item hits that value, you can start by not going for the minimum. Maybe start them off at $57.99, right? It's still like reasonably within that range, and if there's a really high demand for that item, then this price is totally possible. Now, what if you only sell like 10 of them, and then after 24 hours none have sold? Well, here's the deal: you just sold 10 of them, which means there's actually a pretty good possibility that if you left them in there, they would actually sell all of them. So you could leave them at that price, or you could just drop it by a little bit. But I mean, in all honesty, if you sold any of them at that price, then that means that obviously this price is no longer what you want to be aiming for, and you want to be aiming closer for this price. But if none sell at that price, then you could always do $54.99. If none do that, you can go $51.99. And then if they all sell, then there you go. You made an extra 200 each. So by not being impatient, because I always try to help you guys out by RuneScape stuff is a lot about patience. It's all about patience. I mean, like if you want 99 mining on your brand new account, is that just going to happen tomorrow? No, probably not, unless you buy bonds. But you know, it's about patience. Nothing in RuneScape comes instantly. You can make things come quicker by being smart, but nothing comes instantly. So have patience here. And then say you had 100,000. Sorry, my camera's way off there. Say you had 100,000 of these, and you sold them at that price, and versus selling them off at like $51.99. That means 200 each. And without doing some terrible math here, that means you made 20 million extra profit by just being a little bit smarter. If you sold them off for this price, that means you made about 80 million or 79 million, 79,999,000, blah, 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 blah. So if you just instantly sell them for that price that you think is going to be the right price because the Grand Exchange graphs show that, then you missed out on this, or you missed out on this. Now here, let me explain the reason why this is also smart real quick, and that's probably going to be the end of the video. So when you have a graph that looks like this, or whatever, the way that it gets to this price here is, say that prices are 5,000 like we just used. I'll try not to confuse you guys, and say this one's like 4,800 down the lower end, maybe 4,700 over here, whatever. So the way it gets to this price is because there was more demand pushing it up, which means that the items, if this is the Grand Exchange value and the item was always selling at that Grand Exchange value of 4.8K, then how did it get to 5K? Because the reason why is people were probably paying this when it was this. So who's to say that when it's rising up like this, it's not going for like 5,500 for, oops, sorry, my God, I need like a GoPro, 5,500, and then it stops selling for that and drops down to 47 before it goes back up again. Maybe it's going for 5,400, but the Grand Exchange shows 5,100. Because you got to remember, there has to be prices, there has to be outlying prices in order for things to change. And that's the reason why this over here makes sense. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be about it for this video. I really hope that this helps as far as you trying to figure out what you're going to do with your Grand Exchange stuff. And in all honesty, you know, I just want to say this weekend was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you all made a lot of money. And then I hope that you have a great Patreon week. That has too many E's in that, but you get what I mean. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Also, that poll that I had on there, if you're a brand new Patreon member and you want to go vote in that poll, then feel free to go vote in that poll. It's a poll about our next community event. That poll's going to close in probably a day, and then I'm going to take whatever you guys voted for and we're going to do some stuff. So I hope you guys have a great day. I had a really, really fun weekend with you, and I look forward to our next stream, and I'll catch you all later.